Hello, kindergartners, and welcome to our last week of math together. We have a full week ahead of us, lots of new thinking with new tools. I will introduce you all to the new ideas for this coming week. But first, let's start with some attendance. So just like always, when you hear your class number, give me a big wave so I know that you're here. Okay, we are starting with Wait a second. I need some pennies in my trophy. There we go. We are starting with 171. Come on down. Welcome to math. Next we have 102. Welcome to math and come on down. Okay. Next we have, there we go, 206. Welcome to math and come on down. Next we have 104. Welcome to math and come on down. We have 103. Welcome to math and come on down. Okay, I believe that's everyone. Okay, welcome all to our Monday math. We have some videos. We have got lots of worksheets coming. And to get us started, let's first talk about the supplies we're going to need, because that's going to introduce us to some new tools, which Mr. Gallagher emailed families about last week, to tell you some tools that you are going to need for today. First, thinking about our worksheets, we are going to, of course, need some sort of numeral writing tool. We will need a purple math symbol marker or crayon. We are also going to be needing, there it is, some sort of blank piece of paper or a whiteboard, something that you can write number sentences on. So having that out, I think I'm going to use my whiteboard just so that I don't waste any paper. But if you have paper nearby and would like to use it, go for it. Just something to write number sentences down on. Okay, we are also going to be needing our blue and orange, thinking about less than and greater than. Circling numbers that are smaller, numbers that are larger. Okay, those are our writing tools. Of course, we are going to be needing some counters. But first, I'm going to be using my hands paper today and probably for the rest of the week. So if you want to get this out, or having something similar to this, like two circles, so you have something where you can show I have and you have. Could be two bowls, it could be two hands, it could be two socks. You decide. Just having two things so that we can see I have and you have. Together we have. Okay, now for the big tools. Before, we've been using 10 to 15 pennies. Mr. Gallagher sent home an email last week telling parents we are going to be needing some more tools, some more coins than pennies, just pennies. I'm going to tilt my screen down here. Look at all of my coins. I have my pennies. Let me make sure. Okay, I have my pennies here. Oh, I remember where they went. I put them in my trophy. Mr. Gallagher said we would be needing 25 pennies. Put a few of them in my trophy. So 25 pennies. I'm going to count mine to make sure, double check I have 25. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. I can count by fives. I see 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. So I have 25 pennies here with me today. Try and move them. There we go. 25 pennies. I also have 10 nickels. Now nickels, I'm gonna move my screen up so you can see me. Nickels, penny is how many cents? It's 1 cent, right? A penny equals 1 cent. Pennies, you know it's a penny because it has this copper color. And let's see if my camera will focus. No. There is a picture of a silhouette or somebody's top. You can see somebody's head and shoulders. It's a portrait. And this is President Abraham Lincoln. We see President Abraham Lincoln on the front, the head side, and on the back, or what is often called the tail side, we see this building right here, which is the Lincoln Memorial Building, which is in Washington, D.C. And if you look super close on your penny, you can see, well, maybe some pennies. I know some pennies. Oh, yeah. If you look really closely, right in the middle of your Lincoln Memorial Center, I believe, is President Abraham Lincoln. He's really tiny. So if you look closely on your own penny, you can see him. So a penny is 1 cent. I have my, hold on here, there's my penny. Penny equals 1 cent. This is the cent sign. Sometimes we use the dollar sign. Sometimes we use the cent sign. I wrote my 1 like this just so you know for sure this is a 1. Sometimes you see 1s just straight up and down, and sometimes you see a 1 with a little dash and a little foot at the bottom. This is just another way to write a 1, just so you know. 1 cent. Penny. Okay, and we know that is our coppery colored penny print with President Abraham Lincoln on the front. Okay, so that's our penny. We are also going to be needing 10 nickels. Raise your hand if you think you've heard the word nickel before. Raise your hand if you think that might be a new word that you are hearing. It's okay, I'm going to tell you about it right now. Our word is nickel. A nickel is 5 cents. A nickel has President Thomas Jefferson on the front. Here, we see his picture just like President Abraham Lincoln. And on the back, here, is a large home that Thomas Jefferson built for himself. And it is called the Monteceo, I think. That is the title of the building. Okay? And then, so we have 10. If I tilt my screen down, 10. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Today we are only going to be needing pennies and nickels. Just double check here that I am, pennies, nickels, and we're going to be using the next coin that I will introduce in just a second. So looking, if we compared, we have our penny and our nickel. You see there are 2 different colors. It's an easy way to tell the difference between the 2. Next up, we have the dime. A dime is 10 cents. A nickel is 5 cents. A dime is 10 cents. So a dime has President Franklin Roosevelt on, there we go, you can can see his face there. President Franklin Roosevelt. And on the back of a dime, if you look carefully, if you have a dime in front of you, I'm trying to make it so my light doesn't reflect. There are 3 objects on the back side of a dime, or on the tail side, sometimes you hear it as. It's hard to see on my camera, I know, but if you can look on your dime, in the middle you see a torch, something that has fire on the top of it. This stands for liberty. And then on the, make sure I'm doing this on the correct, I think this one is the olive branch. There's an olive branch, and that stands for peace. So we have the torch, an olive branch, and an oak branch. And the oak branch stands for strength and independence. There we go. Strength and independence. So we have a dime, which we see is 10 cents. My Band-Aid. A dime, which we see is 10 cents. And then a nickel, we saw was 5 cents. Now, a nickel and a dime look very similar. But if you look closely, this is the nickel. This is 5 cents. This is the dime. This is 10 cents. What do you see? What's the difference between these 2 coins? It's kind of hard to see. It's easier when you're looking at them in person. If you're looking at these 2 coins, what's the difference? Right, the dime is smaller than the nickel. If you feel them, the nickel it feels like it weighs a little bit more, because also if you look at the sides, again, hard to see on the camera, but if you're looking in front of you, a nickel is thicker, or is wider here than a dime. So if you think to yourself, the smaller numbered cents, so this is 5 cents, is bigger. So you have to kind of think opposites. The nickel, which is a smaller amount of cents, is the bigger coin than the dime, which is a larger amount of cents. 10 cents, 5 cents. It's okay if you get these confused sometimes. They are so similar that it's very easy to get them confused. Just keep practicing looking at them and thinking, okay, I have my nickel. It's the bigger coin, and it is 5 cents. I have my dime. It is a smaller coin, and it is 10 cents. Okay, our last coin today that we are going to be talking about, and dimes, we have 5 or 10 as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay. So those are nickels and dimes. They're very similar colors, and they also are a similar color to quarters. Quarters, have my sign here. Quarter is 25 cents. So a quarter is 25 cents. And quarters are even bigger than, there's our nickel, that's the bigger, remember, nickel is bigger than a dime, and the quarter is even bigger than the nickel. If you look at the quarter to a dime, 10 cents, it's way bigger. Okay, and on the front, or on the head side of a quarter, you see President George Washington. And on the back, you can grab a different one. Some of the backs are different on coins, but a majority of them are the ones that I'm telling you now. On the back, you see the presidential coat of arms. Okay, so those are the 4 kinds of coins we are going to be using. And Mr. Gallagher said to get 8 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You can just have these out and ready throughout the week. Today we are probably only going to be using our pennies, nickels, and dimes. So not our quarters today. Okay, so that is our big tool that we are going to be introducing this week is coins, using money to count. So that is the tool we are going to be using. Our math thinking this week, our goal, what we want to learn by the end of the week, is counting on. We've talked about this strategy a few times. This is when you think 5 plus 2. Think, okay, I know I have 5. Counting on 5 and 2 more. 5, 6, 7. Instead of counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 5. And then adding to 1, 2. That took a long time. Instead, we can shorten that by adding on. So we can think 5 plus 2, 5 and 2 more, 5, 6, 7. We're adding on to that first number instead of counting all of them. Okay, so that's our big goal, our big math thinking this week is counting on. Again, something we've already talked about, but just really focusing on that this week because it's a very important math strategy. Okay, so those were again, let's look at our pictures one more time. Penny, 1 cent. 1 cent is a penny. Our nickel, 5 cents. We say 5 cents because there's more than one. Our dime, 10 cents. Dime, 10 cents. Remember, smaller than a nickel. And last but certainly not least is our quarter. Quarter is 25 cents. Okay, so moving on to our worksheets for the day. Our first worksheet is a matching addition worksheet. So we are going to be looking at the number sentences over on this side and matching them to the correct picture representations on this side. So I'll go over that during our everyone math video. Okay. And then our next worksheet today is called Ducky Place Value. This is something that we looked at last week. Place value is something that we are also going to be talking about. I'll show you that in just a second. Place value, we sprinkled out the idea of place value last week, and we will continue with that thinking this week. Next up, we are going to be talking about math comparisons. So using a certain tool called the greater than and less than sign. I will show you those I'll show you those in just a second, but I'll explain them further during our everyone math video. Okay, so thinking about which number is bigger and which number is smaller. Okay, we've seen this worksheet before, circling the larger number and circling the smaller number with orange and blue. Okay, and for those students who would like a little bit more of a challenge, we have 2 worksheets today of both subtracting 2-digit numbers from each other. Okay, so today I am going to be also talking about, I said earlier, 2 new signs. The first sign is called the greater than sign. So we say this number is greater than this number. We use a sign that looks like this. It's kind of like an alligator mouth. That's how I imagine it. It's like a sideways triangle, and I think about it as an alligator. You see, we could add teeth to our alligator. This is the big mouth, and it's going to eat the bigger number. That's how I learned it in school. Mr. Gallagher learned it a different way. So if this other way helps you, then you could use this way or the alligator way, using something to help remember which way this tool goes towards. So, is 6 less than or greater than 2? Right, it's greater than. So we see our alligator is eating the 6. The way Mr. Gallagher learned it is that the pointed side is the small end, the pointed side, points to the smaller number. Whereas the bigger end or the wider end, see how it's open here, it goes to a point. The wider end goes towards the bigger number because it is bigger or greater. Okay, so then we also have the less than sign. So we look at it the same way. We think less than, our point is pointing towards the smaller number, and our bigger end, the greater end, or the wider end, is pointing towards the larger number. If you like to think of it in the way of the alligator, you think the alligator is eating the bigger number. Okay, so we'll go more into these during our everybody video, but just to have an introduction into these new tools. One more thing we were going to be talking about this week that was the thing that we kind of started discussing last week, was place value. I think of place value, especially when I think about our 1s cubes, our 10 stacks, and our 100 squares, thinking about our math tools that we used in class together. If we have the number 162, if you look, each number has a place value. So looking over in the 1's place first, I put a 1 over here to show this is the 1's place, also the word 1's. 2, we only have 2 1's. So if we were looking using our 10 stack and our 1's, we'd only have 2 1's. Looking here, how many 10's do we have? We have 2 1's. How many 10's do we have? 6, right? We'd have 6 10 stacks to show this number. And then our last number is 100. We see how many hundreds are in this? Right, 1. If we had the number 362, then we would have 300 squares to show. So we're going to do a little work continuing our thinking of place value. We did a few worksheets last week, but we'll keep thinking about that this week. So those are just a sprinkling of the ideas that we are going to be having this week. There's a lot of new thinking, a lot of thinking that we've seen, but really digging down and understanding the tools that we are using and thinking about. Okay, so that is our video for our introduction. Next up, we are going to have an all video, and we are going to practice working on our adding on strategy all together. So that will be everyone working on the all together. That is where I will be using my hands chart and my pennies, and I will only be using pennies and dimes during that, or excuse me, pennies and nickels. Nickels are the 5 cent and pennies are the 1 cent. So I'll be using those tools with this to work on counting on. So that'll be everyone, and then the next 2 videos will be our worksheets. Okay, I'll see you all in just a sec.